Hi, y'all. Before we start, I want to warn you that the topics in this episode may be triggering for some listeners. Please read the podcast description for more details. Welcome to Roadie Wellness, where we explore all things health and self-care. Whether you're seeking mental clarity, physical fitness, or insight from students like you, we've got you covered. Welcome back to the Roadie Wellness podcast. I'm Olivia, and I'm here with Emily today. Today we are talking about April and how it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. We're going to be going over some misconceptions and how sexual assault affects our campus here at URI. What is your experience and how has it been on campus talking about sexual assault? Has it been pretty well informed and accurate, or do you find that there's a lot of misconceptions around it?
I feel like there's definitely a mix. It definitely depends on the social circle that you're a part of. I feel like it's a little dicey and there's probably some misconceptions in Greek life, but I'm not really a part of Greek life. I can't really speak on that. But as a peer health educator, because I'm a peer health educator at URI, me and my coworkers talk about it all the time. So it's definitely talked about a lot in that sense. And I was actually talking to my coworkers today, and they were saying that their friends don't really talk about it that much. So I feel like it really just depends. In my social circle, we do talk about it a lot just because we're all really passionate about interpersonal violence, toxic masculinity, and how that could affect women's experiences with men. And it's not only just women who experience sexual assault, it's also men. And I feel like a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point of why awareness is such an important topic and why Sexual Assault Awareness Month is for an entire month, because there's a lot of information that a lot of people don't know about. Why do you think it's important that the health services here really promotes this month and tries to spread awareness, especially on our college campus?
It's so important because a lot of the time when people experience sexual assault, they don't really know where to go to. So by really highlighting the resources that we have on campus is really important.
Do you find that there's any common misconceptions around sexual assault?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I feel like there are a lot of misconceptions. One of the misconceptions is that the number one way a person will incapacitate a person is through drugs, like a roofie or just other ways, but it's actually alcohol. According to RAINN, alcohol is the number one used substance that a perpetrator will use to incapacitate a person to sexually assault them, which is kind of shocking. I mean, it's not shocking because so many people drink alcohol, but I don't know. I feel like that's a big misconception.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I think you're right. A lot of people think it's some sort of pill or drug that they put in the alcohol, but in reality, it's just someone giving you more alcohol or something with a higher alcohol content or percentage than you think. And just to mention about the statistic, it's from RAINN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. So it is a organization within the United States that supports victims of sexual assault and different types of sexual abuse, and it is a nonprofit organization. So they do a lot of statistics and data and things like that, and it is a very reputable organization. Another statistic that I actually found too is that 1 in 6 women in the United States experience either rape or incomplete rape, and I think that's pretty shocking. I don't know if too many people know how prevalent that is.
I feel like the people who usually talk about sexual assault are usually the people who've experienced it or have a close person in their life who has experienced it because they want to spread awareness. But also some people who also have experienced it just don't want to talk about it, which is fair too.
Yeah, so kind of continuing along the lines of misconceptions, what are some stigmas around sexual assault, whether it's how often it occurs or victim blaming, that type of thing? Have you seen any kind of common stigmas around sexual assault?
I feel like victim blaming is a huge stigma that stems from a lack of understanding or ignorance. I feel like people have trouble with what to say, and then when they're supporting someone, they kind of say the wrong things, like, as a result of that, which isn't always helpful. And I feel like reporting, there's a lot of, like, gray lines with that, and some people try to, like, make someone report when it's, like, not necessarily what someone needs, and they kind of just, like, need that person to be there for them.
Going back to a support system, what do you think is like the best way to respond to someone who kind of opens up about their sexual assault or discloses that to their family and friends?
I feel like the number one thing that's like the most important that you need to do to support someone is just validate their experience and let them tell you like whatever they need to say. Don't force a story out of them, and they'll tell you when they're ready. Just like asking them if they have professional support or if they need support like outside of yourself is also like really important, and knowing the resources. That's why like health promotion is so important, to like give people the resources, give to a friend or like someone who needs it just in case, so they know what to do.
Yeah, so on top of family and friends validating your experience, can you talk a little bit more about the effects a wrong or invalidating response to someone disclosing their sexual assault?
I feel like how a person reacts does really impact like someone's healing process, so it's very important to be delicate and like intentional when you're comforting someone who disclosed like a sexual assault encounter, because it can like really be comforting to a person when they're feeling very down and not knowing like what to do. And one thing that a person can say that be like harmful is not knowing what to say. Like, it's okay to not know what to say, but don't like verbalize it and be like, sorry, I don't know what to say to you right now, because then that like makes the person who's disclosing how they're feeling like kind of feel more shameful than they already feel with the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because that goes into like not validating or maybe like insinuating that the other person's disclosure is like too much for their support to like handle, which is like not super helpful. So, and then it can affect whether a person like seeks professional help or not too. So it definitely is important that if someone comes to you and trusts you to kind of disclose that information, that you're there just like listening with a
Yeah, I was going to say silence is sometimes the best response, because then you're just, like, listening and, like, fully present with them, like, while they're just telling you their story or telling you, like, whatever they feel comfortable talking with you about.
Yeah, and even just something simple of, like, yeah, I'm so sorry what you went through, and, like, I'm here to listen if you need anything or, you know, help you out if you need anything, and, yeah, if you need help, like, seeking a therapist or professional resources, I can be there with you if you need moral support.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the main thing is just like validating the experience and just saying, I believe you is like very powerful.
Yeah, and like what you went through was wrong.
Yeah.
And like saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of resources, you mentioned earlier that our campus has a ton of resources to support people going through different mental health problems, but as well as like victims of sexual assault or, you know, any type of victimization or abuse. Can you like mention some that we have on campus?
So we have Kelly Ryan, who's our violence prevention and advocacy coordinator. So like she's the person who can like help someone who is going through like a domestic violence situation and needs safety planning, or like a person who is in need of reporting, and she helps them with that. And then we also have a support group here on campus for interpersonal violence, like sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking. And you could always like reach out to Kelly if you want to be a part of the support group, and it's really helpful to like kind of collaborate and talk about things where you can like talk to like-minded people.
Part of that safety plan, too, is it's possible to do, like, a no-contact order.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't go through the police. Having a no-contact order just through the campus, I think Kelly can help set that up. And you don't need as much evidence, basically. It's much easier to put that in place, especially with, like, classes and dorm situations. And then I also want to mention that the counseling center, like, on top of Kelly being an awesome resource, people can always go to the counseling center, too, for therapy, especially if it's not something recent that happened, but maybe there's feelings being brought up. There's free counseling there, and they can help you work through those feelings in a confidential way. So that's always available as well.
So there's also a resource off campus through the state called Day One, which is like an advocacy organization for sexual assault, domestic violence, hate crimes, and human trafficking. And I was actually like a helpline advocate through them, and I would go on calls to these types of incidences at the hospital. And they're like a great resource for people who are experiencing interpersonal violence who aren't related to you or I.
And then is that just through Rhode Island, like within the state?
Yeah, it's just in the state. There's other like Day One advocacy centers within other states, but each one is kind of a microcosm within their states.
Mm-hmm. And also, again, like RAINN is a national organization that has a 24/7 confidential support helpline as well, which you can find if you go to RAINN.org. They have a big button that says Get Help Now, too, and there's people that you can speak to or get in contact with as well.
That one is kind of really good, so then you don't have to, like, directly meet with someone in person. You can kind of just call with someone.
And then lastly, what changes do you think need to happen, whether it's, like, socially or institutionally, or even if you want to talk about on campus specifically, to reduce stigma and for there to be better support for survivors of sexual assault?
I feel like people need to change the way they think about it and put their biases aside. It's definitely like hard to connect with people who do not want to listen or understand. So like I feel like you can't like force someone to understand or listen to the awareness, but trying is better than nothing. And I feel like by informing children at like a young age about the simplicities of consent, with even like as small of just like, oh, can I have this pencil? Or even like watching the consent tea video, I feel like is really helpful, like on a college level, even though it's like so simple, just not pushing tea down someone's throat and just being like, do you want this tea?
Yeah, because even though it's silly and like everyone talks about it at orientation, it is a really good way to make an analogy out of consent to show that sexual assault isn't just like rape. And like the tea video really shows all of those different scenarios well, I think.
Yeah. People don't understand like how scary and how people freeze, and that's such a normal response because I feel like most of the time, at least for parents are always like, oh, you guys should have just like ran away or you should have fought them off, but it's just like it's not that easy in the moment. Yeah,
because even like as a psychology major myself, like we learned that fight, flight, fawn, and freeze, they're all automatic responses that your nervous system enacts. Like our conscious brain is not there anymore during a situation like that, and you don't usually have control over how you react in that situation. So even teaching people about those responses and realizing that if that happens, you can validate that that could have been a sexual assault experience, or just teaching people that if someone's scared, then you shouldn't force them to have sex, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's also assault as well, even if they technically like agree or they don't say no.
That's why I like the FRIES acronym, because I feel like that really exemplifies like what consent is.
Can you go into that a little bit more? Do you mind mentioning what FRIES means when it comes to consent?
The acronym for FRIES is F is freely given, R is reversible, I is informed, E is enthusiastic, and S is specific.
Yeah, and that's all around of like what consent is and what means to have like freely given consent.
Yes, exactly, which is very important for like people's overall pleasure and happiness and comfort.
And like speaking of institutional or social changes that need to happen, a better understanding of what consent is, I think, is a great place to start of how to bring more awareness to sexual assault, but also like hopefully reduce it.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. I think it's been a really enlightening and helpful conversation to spread more awareness about sexual assault. So yeah, thank you for joining us and and speaking about this.
Thank you for having me. This is very important information.
Before we wrap up, a quick reminder that all information shared in today's podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Thank you for listening to another episode of Roadie Wellness. If you like what you heard today, tune in every Tuesday on all podcast platforms for more. If you want to stay up to date on events and healthcare tips, please follow us at URI Health Promotions on Instagram. And if you have any ideas for future podcast episodes or more social media content that you'd like to see, please feel free to DM us or email us. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.